Trickster City. English translation of Behrupiya Shahar, Rajkamal Publications, Delhi, 2007, with writers Azra Tabassum, Janu Nagar, Lakshmi Chand Kohli, Rakesh Khairalia, Yashoda Singh, Kiran Verma, Suraj Rai, Nilofar, Kulwinder Kaur, Shamsher Ali, Babli Rai, Ankur Kumar, Dilip Kumar, Love Anand, Nasreen, Rabia Qureshi, Sunita Nishad, Saifuddin, Arish Qureshi, Tripan Kumar, translated from Hindi by Shweta Sarda. Exhibition by Janu Nagar. Here she is, my yellow darling. She's standing in one corner of the city, a coat of yellow over her. As soon as I approach where she is standing, she leaves. I call out to the man standing there, Bhai Sahab, oh Bhai Sahab. He turns around, the bag on his shoulders, swaying with him. When I ask him, he replies, the bus is left for its stand. It will set out from here at 1 p.m. It's 12:30. I decide to walk in the direction in which the bus has gone, all along the footpath. Many people are giving away a free drink of water. I stop and drink 2 glasses. This is a bend in the road right ahead. As soon as I turn along it, I catch sight of her leaving again. I repent deeply, but my mind is made up. I'm going to travel by that bus today. I'm in an empty ground. I start walking around. The stand is only a short distance away. I notice there are 2 small rooms near it. Walking towards them, I see inside one of the rooms there's a man with white hair, his elbows propped up on a register. He's making dots on the register with a pen. I peep through the window and ask in a loud voice, Sirji, this yellow bus that has just left from here, when will it return? Another one will be here in a little while, number 620. Read the number yourself, don't bother me again, he replies. I'm standing below a peepal tree. The breeze and the rustle of the leaves of the tree are soothing. The long, yellow-colored number 620 arrives just as my sweat is beginning to dry. It makes a gurr sound and stops. Here comes my yellow darling. I swell with happiness. On a gesture from the driver, the doors of the bus have opened, the conductor has alighted and is going in the direction of the window I was at earlier. The driver too rises from his seat and, getting off, locks the bus and follows the conductor. Now it's just the bus and I. It's 1:15 in the afternoon. I circle the bus, watching it closely. I look at the rear tires, at the metal netting at the back. This bus is of an entirely different ilk from the others. Seeing the cooling shade of tinted glass on the windows of the bus, my sweat has evaporated. But my vest has not dried yet. I think it should easily dry once I'm inside the bus. An elderly couple arrives. They both come and stand beneath the peepal tree and wait just like me. The driver and the conductor return. They're chatting. The driver opens the door with the key that he selects from among a bunch. Once the driver is inside, I too enter. The conductor calls, buy your tickets. I'm occupied. I have to select a seat for myself. The conductor's seat is raised, as it is right above one of the rear tires of the bus. The driver picks out a key from his bunch and turns on the ignition. All the lights in the bus have come on. The bus rumbles, starts to move, and gathers speed. The seats atop the front tires are also at an elevation. All the seats are in sets of 4 with pairs facing each other. Passengers will be able to make eye contact and talk to one another. But the height and the make of the seats at the back is irregular. In them, hands can meet across waists, but eyes can't meet eyes. The bus has turned and is now on the main road. Hitching his collar and throwing it back, the driver accelerates. Ahead, we reach a bus stand. The bus halts with style. Opening its till now closed doors. It takes a girl in. She climbs up the steps and, buying her ticket, asks, excuse me, is there an air conditioner in the bus? The answer is no. I'm stunned with disappointment. Of what use are these tinted glasses? I raise my eyes and see small red dots forming some words in Hindi and English are moving through a glass frame in front. The first set of words say DTC, in your service for the past 50 years. Some other lines roll by, but they're a bit beyond me. The bus continues to move and halt. Now the bus is gathering speed again. A boy of 16 or perhaps 19 has collided with the long side of the bus. The bus comes to a grinding halt. The driver turns off the ignition, opens the door, climbs down and screams at him, "Can't you see this long bus, huh?" Touching his arms and legs, controlling his gasps, his face wilting, absolutely silent, the boy walks to the footpath and lies down. The driver eases the contortion of his nose and mouth, gets back into the bus, rests his back on the seat, throws back his collar, starts up the bus, and turning to the passenger near him says, "They walk around looking to be killed." There's a microphone next to the steering wheel. I can't make out what it's for. Suddenly the bus stops. There's chaos on the steps as a group of people rush in. The seat next to me is empty. A boy comes running to it, throws his bag on the seat and says, "Bhaijan, don't let anyone sit here. I'll be right back with my ticket." On returning, as he's settling into his seat, he smiles and says, "What a nice bus." I let him know, "Bhai Sahab, this bus does not have an air conditioner." Inspecting my face, he says, "Then what use are these darkened windows?" "Bhai Sahab, be patient. You'll understand everything when the bus begins to move." Looking inside a hall. The group that had been standing in the park has decided to move towards Rajasthan Hall. The entrance of the hall is designed like an elephant. Only on going past the elephant does one reach the main entrance. Everyone is being stopped here, the men and women separately. Everyone is frisked with the checking machine from their head to their toes, and people will be allowed inside only after they switch off their mobile phones. Those on duty at the gate have put on uniforms to mark themselves out from the visitors. All this is being done to take precaution against terrorism. Who is to say if you're going to be allowed inside? Now inside, the group is inspecting Jaipuri quilts. Some eatables have been set out on display nearby. Rajasthan's style of exhibiting its skills and products is a league of its own. A boy about 12 or 13 years old is holding a chulak in his hand. He adeptly rubs the wooden pieces with his fingers, making music. A little girl is standing next to him. She starts singing Rajasthani folk music set to the tune of popular film songs. "Slowly, slowly, O driver, drive the vehicle slowly." She's dancing a sweet little dance as she sings. Now that it has ended, some people clap, some give her money. The group is on the move again. On their way out of the hall, everyone in the group tastes some rice pudding. Not only that, but also thickened milk, fluffy puris made with thickened milk, ice cream. Having walked some distance from the Rajasthan Hall, the group finds itself in front of the Kashmir Hall. The same process of checking visitors is on at the entrance of this hall as well. Inside, one can see warm shawls, woolen sweaters, and fragrant apples, among many other kinds of fruit. Existing from the other end, members of the group drink coconut water. Some also eat sweet balls made of grated coconut. Having walked a little distance along the crowd of other visitors, they hear a voice, "Come, look, the dogs are about to jump into fire. Don't miss this feat." The entire group turns to follow the voice. As its source are some dogs dressed in army uniforms exhibiting the skills they have been tutored. The viewers behold this spectacle. Standing behind a low boundary wall made with a thin sheet of metal, a man dressed as a soldier has tied cotton doused with kerosene along a circular rim. He sets fire to it. The dogs begin to jump through the ring one by one and land on a mattress that has been spread out on the other side. There are 4 dogs in all. Each one gets a turn to display its skill. Then they all run to an enclosure. Among the spectators is a girl who's wearing a vest and capri. Her lower back is bare. When people start laughing at her untanned skin that is showing through from between her vest and her capri, she becomes embarrassed and starts walking away, tugging at her vest to pull it down. The group follows her. The girl has disappeared into the crowd, but the group has landed at the Paras milk stall, where it is buying poly bags of salted buttermilk and sweet milk. They drink from the poly bags with the help of straws. A sound reaches them. "Pratibha Gaur, who is here from Allahabad, has been looking for you since 2 p.m. Neeraj Gaur, meet her at the main gate of the Uttar Pradesh Hall. She's waiting for you impatiently. Meet her as soon as possible." Another sound emerges from behind them. "Do not touch any unidentifiable object. It could be a bomb. Report to the Delhi police immediately. Save yourself from terrorism. Beware of the crowd. Keep your pockets secure so you are not inconvenienced." Gathering all such sounds and voices, the group enters the community conference hall, a small, life-size model of a farmer tilling a field with 2 bullocks and plow has been put on display here. The group sees the display and then makes its way towards the main gate. It buys some things it likes and heads out. Now tired, the little one goes to sleep. It's the last day of the fair. A boy of about 12 or 13 years of age is preparing to enter Pragati Maidan ticketless. He is moving towards gate number 5, which is where the Pragati Maidan railway station is. Standing before the gate, he seems to be planning something. As soon as there's a crowd at the gate, he picks up a used ticket from the ground and moves unhesitantly towards the gate along with the crowd. The guard checking the ticket says to him, "But this ticket is torn." The man next in line is impatient, and the guard turns to address him. Meanwhile, the boy has eased himself through the gate. The halls are packing up. Most of the halls are nearly empty. The boy walks from one hall to another, asking for something or the other. In this way, he's collecting things he likes in keeping with his age. His cloth bag is filling up. What then? He flicks up his collar and begins to help himself to eatables from different stalls. From 1 p.m., it is now 7 p.m. The boy makes his way out of the same gate that he came through. Walking through his lane towards his home, calling out greetings to all his playmates on the way, he opens the door and enters his house. On seeing him, his mother asks, "Where were you the entire day?" He laughs and empties his bag to show her everything he has collected during the day. "My, look at what all I have brought from the fair." Mai slaps him across the face. "Little one, this is no way to wander about the entire day. Papa's back by now." Mai complains. "Look what your darling little one has been up to." Papa replies, "You must have sent him. I didn't give him any money." "Why, little one, how did you get inside the fair?" His parents ask him. The little one tells them everything. Papa is laughing. He seems to have enjoyed himself listening to his son, but then he quickly controls his laughter and scolds, "Little one, this is not right. This is very bad. It's okay this once, but you must not do this again." Now tired, the little one goes to sleep. It's next morning. The little one is now sitting in the lane and showing all the items he has collected from the fair to all his friends. There's some small diaries with some blank pages. There's some measuring scales with "switch off electrical appliances after use, conserve electricity" written on them. He has on him many calendars with Ganeshi's image on them, and underneath it the words "competition success." He begins distributing these calendars in the entire neighborhood free of charge, just as he has brought them. Missed call by Lakshmi Chand Kohli. "Sonu bhai, the sky is about to come thundering down." It was as if the downpour had been holding itself back for just these words. Sonu stood at the door with his hand outstretched into the rain, enjoying the drops on his fingertips. He couldn't step out. He had responsibilities. He only stood and looked. One of the boys, soaking in the rain, appealed to him. "Sonu, the rain is amazing." Sonu smiled and took one step out the door. "Look, I could be in the rain, but I choose not to be." Today, once again, Sonu's day really began at 8:30 a.m. with the ringing of the telephone. A hint of a smile lit his lips. He watched the instrument silently counting the rings. 2, 4, 6. He stylishly leaned his body against the edge of the table. "Can't seem too eager, can I?" Reaching across the table, he picked up the receiver and heard the soft hum of a song. Not a hit number from a new movie. Today, it seems, his caller is in the mood for old songs. "Come along, sir, won't you? Let me show you the splendor of spring. I promise they will thrill you, the places that I can take you." Sonu heard the verse through, then said, "Can you play it a little louder? It's a charming song." The volume increased, then the caller disconnected the line. Sonu felt that these veiled encounters over the telephone held promise. His eyes strayed outdoors, searching. There were few things outside that arrested his eyes. That greenhouse a short distance away from where someone once flashed a mirror at him, the auto rickshaw mechanic across the street, always staring intensely into the engine, the man frying kachoris on one side, masking the air with smells day after day, the road that stretched out before him, a perpetual passage. Sonu felt he was in a special, unuttered relationship with them all. Today is the day, same as any other, except that the one who flashes sunshine at him cannot be seen. The man frying kachoris seems to have moved inside his shop, and Mechanic Sahib is working sheltered inside his equipment case. But the road isn't deserted yet. Everything is swaying gently in the breeze, compelling Sonu to look inside. Not that Sonu has ever been one to remain caught up in himself. He always finds himself surrounded by people who seem to breathe life into the telephones in his shop with their conversations. Instructions to the daughter-in-law about customs and rituals. The wrapping up of a discussion about the family's future in a matter of 10 minutes. Sticking to generalities to avoid pointed questions about oneself. A girl talking shyly into the receiver, her scarf-wrapped finger rubbing a shine into the instrument. The man who comes often and, laughing uncontrollably over the phone, bumps into the glass wall of the booth each time he asks Sonu to extend the duration of the call. Another man who comes with his entire family, too, has recently started making calls from the shop. He asks Sonu to dial a number in Agra and talks loudly into the receiver for a long time. Then each of his children is allowed a couple of minutes on the phone. Finally, when it's his wife's turn, she transforms from a shy, withdrawn woman into a spirited talker. Meanwhile, the children take over the shop with their fights and impatient cries. There is much that keeps Sonu engrossed in the entire day. As Sonu turned from the door into his shop, a young woman came and stood beneath the awning of a nearby shop, trying to stave off the rain. She was drenched. The strands of her wet hair had settled on her face. Her clothes clung to her body. Sonu could see the contours of her shivering body beneath her red satin outfit. He invited her into his shop. "Listen, you're completely soaked. Come inside. You'll catch a cold." He had to ask her a few times before she agreed. She pulled at her wet clothes, trying to loosen them from her body, and they'd stick right back to her. She then quickly strode up to the window in the shop, drew the curtains, and sat down beside it. Sonu handed her his towel. "You can see this." She wiped her hands and face and wrapped the towel around herself like a shawl. She kept to herself, raising her eyes only to look out of the door. Sometimes she glanced towards Sonu to make sure he wasn't looking at her. For a while, both stole glances at each other. Outside, it rained. Inside, there was silence. "Hello, Bhai Sahab. Can I make a phone call?" Sonu brought himself back to reality. "Yes, from inside the booth." "Sir, I won't be able to make it today. The rains have blocked the roads. The entire area around Virat Cinema is flooded. Sir, I'll only be able to come tomorrow now. Thank you, sir." He hung up and turned towards Sonu, said, "A day like today is for drinking tea and being carefree, isn't it? On a day like today, excuses are excused, aren't they?" He smiled, paid for his phone call, and left. Yes, of course. If I had been at home, I too would have been bathing in the rain. How can I do that here? At home, the roof must be dripping by now. All the sewers in the lane must be overflowing, all the water flowing into our home. Because the floor's a couple of steps lower than the street, I must get the roof cemented this year. The owner of the shop was at the door. He knocked. "What's up?" "Nothing, just sitting." "Isn't business good today?" "Been okay till now." "Would you like some tea? You must be cold." "Why don't you send 2 cups?" The owner walked away into the rain. I know why he was here, because the curtains are drawn. He watches me from a distance, makes sure he knows what I'm doing. All bosses are the same. Yeah, after all, this shop isn't my own. I had thought about buying my own shop, but now I have this one. There's no point. What will I do with another? I make do with what I have. Outside, the rain softened into a mild drizzle. Sleep never leaves my body. Looking into the direction of the curtain, he continued, "The bare floor of the house dances in front of my eyes all the time, calling me." The shower's over, the air hung heavy. Sonu found it hard to keep his eyes open. His body drooped in the chair. "Bhaiya, please can you dial this number? It's for Jaipur." Sonu read the number and dialed it. First the man, then his wife took the receiver. The wife started crying as soon as she was on the phone. She kept on crying. Then she said, "Mother, I'm really missing you. Please come. I have few days left now." She was crying again. She must have spent about 4 minutes crying. The man took the receiver from her. Sonu looked at the woman. He wanted to console her. "Don't cry." He held back. The husband and wife left, holding hands. Everyone at home will have gone to bed by the time Sonu shuts the shop and returns home. He will enter his house through the door that will have been left ajar for him. By the time he'll wake up the next morning, everyone will have left for work. Sonu felt he was slowly drifting apart from everyone, that all his social ties were slowly being severed. No time off, always finding everyone asleep. So much lay buried within Sonu, unshared, unexpressed. Sonu groped for something to hold on to. Perhaps an image to rescue him from this despair. He grew restless. It was getting colder. He looked around, something, anything, to rest his eyes. He found it impossible to keep still. He got out of the chair and paced around the shop, then turned once again to stand at the door. The exhaust pipes of the three-wheelers being repaired at the mechanic spewed smoke. Many vehicles were lined up, waiting to be attended to. The smell of burning petrol saturated the air. The telephone rang. It's unusual for the phone to ring in a PCO booth. Sonu picked up the receiver and waited a few seconds before replying, "Yaar, you're never going to grow up. Yes, I know who you are, so tell me, what's new?" "All right." Sonu was trying to work something out. "Yes, I'll try my best to come for it." Touching the instrument with his other hand, he said, "Yeah, see you soon." The call ended. "Do you know when I last took leave?" Sonu said, trying to remember. "But it's going to be difficult to convince my partner, the one who does the night duty here. He's always full of his own problems." Propping himself up against the counter with an elbow, Sonu muttered on. Mukesh suddenly quit his job one day. He came home, informed everyone, and then left with his friends. Papa was furious and didn't go to work that day. They had a huge argument. What a day it was. Mukesh had been categorical. "I'm not going to work. That's final." There was a furor in the house. Somehow, Sonu had become the focus of the argument. His brother had rued. Sonu earns a paltry 600 rupees a month. What exactly is his contribution to this house? Which household responsibility does he share? I earn 2,500 rupees. On top of that, I have to stand in queues to pay the electricity and water bill. I have to buy the vegetables and groceries. I'm not going to work. That's when Sonu sought out work at the phone booth. He worked till midnight and never took leave. It had been 8 months now. What should I say to the boy who does night duty here? There's no point asking the boss. Sort it out between yourselves. That's his line. It was time for settling the day's account. The boss would arrive soon. He'll add up the figures on the receipt and tally it with the money Sonu hands him. Not many phone calls would have been made from here today. Yes, that's how it was. He looked closely at Sonu and say, "Arey, why are your hair and beard so untrimmed? Time to visit the barber, don't you think?" He'll finish counting the money and secure it in the pocket in his kurta, then say, "Be sure to be here on time tomorrow." The headlights of the auto rickshaws had come on. Sonu switched on the neon STD PCO sign outside his shop. He reflected on the day that had passed. This is something he does every day, at the end of each day, to locate his personal special moment. He glanced towards the empty chair next to the window and smiled. "Arey, your towel has become wet." She had got up as she said this. "What's your name?" "My name is Sonu." "You're a very nice person." Then she had left. Sonu turned to look outside. The STD PCO sign cast a warm glow on the street. Oh shit, I never asked her name. But, well, so what? Maybe she'll come again, another time. Daily Acceptances. Rakesh Kairalia. 1. Even the wind seems to ebb and flow with time. Then how can these people just talk on as they do? How can the words that pass through their throats to collide with their lips possibly create? In spite of their proximity, these relationships appear distant to me. A current of joy seems to have swept over everything around me, but my heart is desolate. My throat bristles with a thirst. My parched lips cake with their own dead skin. Who is to say when my throat will be bedewed? This thirst of mine is unuttered, but this too perhaps has some meaning. 2. They who have lived in freedom, doing as they please, refuse to accept truths about life. They concern themselves with only those realities which are servile to their desires. Visions of the future bring them face to face with their most agonizing fears, but they reject them. How long will they allow themselves to be dazzled by only that which is agreeable to them? It's difficult to predict, and they themselves do not know. 3. Omen of the Garland. Ruhina, of a block, Milan Vihar, was getting married. Her house filled with guests on her wedding day. When garlands were being exchanged by the bride and groom, one garland broke. People declared it to be an ill omen. Hodgepodge. There was a brand new maneuver from the groom's side. Minutes before his wedding procession was to reach the bride's home, a demand of 1 lakh rupees from the family of the bride. The bride batted well. She called up the police. Everyone is now behind bars. It was the guests who won in this duel. They ate heartily and slept contentedly. People chalk. Sitting in an auto rickshaw, one boy is saying to the other, his days are numbered. Now the eavesdropper will want to know who is being talked about. The one being referred to here is about 24 years old. It has been learnt that he has drunk up all his innards with alcohol. The abundance of water. It has been learnt that on the hillock towards the jungle, fountains of water have appeared, but in the locality, people sit clenching their parched throats. Investigations have revealed that the water pipeline has burst. Household tale. Divorce papers have been filed on the morning of the day the husband was to receive his monthly salary. Reason? Why did the wife demand that the pay be handed over to her, even though the husband's mother lives with him? Result? The girl is now at her home and the boy sits at his own. Mobile love. In a small area in Delhi, Rahul and Sunita struggled to give their relationship a name. As time passed, they became so close that they started to make special appearances together. They ended up being made to marry each other at least 4 times as a result. 3. Abiding by their traditions, people harden. Their inner selves are fluid, but the thickening layers of time contain their currents, disallow eruptions. To renew a place or a thing, to refresh it, requires continuous effort. But what is the nature of these eyeglasses, looking through which no other colors can be seen? 4. It is amidst the illusions created by his own eyes that every person dwells. In a way, he is aware of this. Surrounded by masks, he stays dependent on them. 5. Even after having met her many times, I feel I remain unknown to her. This style of hers, to keep a sense of strangeness alive, even after getting to know someone, appeals to me, because the desire to make further acquaintance gives us courage and makes us encourage new things. 6. She becomes silent without completing what she had started out to say. Then suddenly erupts again. She is always in a hurry to have others understand what she is saying. She tries to answer questions immediately. While listening to someone, she picks out a sentence from which she hears and begins through it to tell her own tale. We say to her, "Yes, we have understood," to which she says, "Let me speak." 7. The realm between the living and the non-living is invisible. This is its abundance, its freedom, its flight. 8. Imagination finds tangible expressions despite the compromises we make. It is not possible to predict when our thoughts, questions, and feelings will become molten and burst out of the conditional confines we hedge them in. Whether we speak them aloud, accept them, cast them aside, or throw them away depends very often on the place and context that we are in. 9. Don't think you are a consideration in how society is constituted. To make spaces in which you may imagine and to make spaces that you have imagined, this is possible only in friendship, close companionship, and love. The effect of films. In this fast-changing world, love people have for film songs remains unchanged. Year 2008, Wednesday, 9:45 a.m. Seeing a young woman pass from in front of an auto rickshaw stand, a young boy broke into a song to express the feelings she had stirred in his heart. Your height is just a super, and on top of that, you're such a looker. The girl was no less than Malika Sherawat. She turned and walked back to where the boy was standing and asked him, "Are you speaking the truth?" I love you very much, my dear. It has become very easy to nose out lovers these days. In Tigri, Nilu has put his mother to a deep, dreamless sleep for the sake of his love. What has he done with her body? His father's lips are sealed with fear. The fire of revenge. The moment someone buys a refrigerator, a long queue of people requesting a drink of cold water forms outside his door. If the owner of the new refrigerator makes the mistake of saying he has no cold water to serve, his jilted neighbors begin scheming about how they will avenge this rebuttal. Today, one neighborhood has seen a man succeed in taking his revenge 2 years after its seed were planted. The first thing Ramesh has done after buying a refrigerator of his own is to steal his neighbor Manoj's electricity meter. Now, only his fridge will work, while Manoj will be left pining for cold water. Burtar Singh held at gunpoint. On Sunday, Burtar Singh, who lives in an informal settlement, was at home with his entire family. Suddenly, he heard a loud voice call out to him from outside their door. Kake! As soon as Burtar Singh's son stepped out to see who had come calling, he was grabbed by a group of men. When Burtar Singh learnt of this, he rushed out of the house. One among the group held a gun to Burtar Singh's head. A crowd of people gathered to watch, but no one stepped forward to intervene. The bus journey. A young woman sat by the window seat in a bus. Keeping to herself, some boys got into the bus and started to tease her. The other passengers looked on quietly. Perhaps they all thought a film hero was about to appear to help her. 10. Objects lose even their shadows in the dark. But this somber mantle cannot endure for long. With time comes the light which can return to these objects their shadows. This is the way of nature, though the cycle sometimes seems to be broken. The important thing is not to remain frozen in one place. 11. The rivulets of time tug at us. They try to engulf us, to immerse us in themselves. Soaked by these rivulets, sources of joy and sadness, springs of colorful and also dull moments of life, people dream their desires and struggle to fulfill them. People are scathed, they wear down, they are also embellished, refined and refashioned. In their heart nurtures their lust, perhaps because in trying to stay with the times, we behave like a flock of sheep. Some people, a stick in their hands, a scarf thrown over their shoulder, prepare to be our shepherds. Easily scattered, helter-skelter, society marks its borders, tries to keep people within them. Each person possessed with his own idea stays adamant. Somewhere he breaks down, then joins. Somewhere he tries to outstretch his arms and reach out. Somewhere he tries, unable to achieve anything at all. After having made too many sacrifices, one life says, "This is what I have earned, honor and respect. Yes, this is the fruit of my labor." 12. What words would that life have been shaped by, which lived abiding by the rules set out for it, and concerned itself with nurturing only those few relations that it was born into? 13. Different routines of different people bring them to this lane every day, every month, or only occasionally. Getting formed and dissolving through the movement of these countless people, at times slow-paced and sometimes racing, this lane keeps changing, returning a fresh image of itself to the passers-by from time to time. Perhaps the pace of the heart is the quickest. It breaks the molds it itself creates, so that it may continue to beat. 14. What is it like when the knot of a relationship is tied around you, and you search your nourishment only within its mold, and in the spaces that have to do with it alone? Perhaps every person is familiar with this restlessness. Near Lal Building School, Ambedkar Nagar. Tuesday, 11 a.m. Satish's cycle was hit by a speeding motorcycle. He was injured, but not critically. He escaped with only one leg fractured. Sadly, he's about to be married in 2 days. School shoes. Tension has mounted in this household over a minor matter. When the son demanded a new pair of shoes for his school, his mother told him next month. On hearing this, the boy left home, vowing never to return. Will he leave school as well? What will happen next, we do not know. In the fear of a bad name, Uday set out in the city streets to look for his wife. When a month later he was spotted doing the round of the same lanes. People advised him to seek help from the police. He replied his name will be disgraced if he reports the matter to the police. Surprise in the feast. Anita's wedding was held in M Block in Ambedkar Nagar on the 4th of December. By the time the group had been helping Anita dress up, reached the tent to partake of the feast, the food had entirely finished. It was later learned that some exchanges had transpired with the outside from the back of the tent. Power failure. Khan Bhai was furious about his neighbors gathering in his house following a power cut in his locality. Khan Bhai grew so frustrated that he ended up breaking his own inverter, the source of both uninterrupted power supply in his home and all his woes. The arrival of the sister-in-law. 4 years have passed, but Sonia is still waiting to hear from her in-laws. She had led a happy life with her husband till 4 years ago, but everything changed after her husband's sister arrived in their home. It's been very difficult to ascertain who is to be blamed. In a hurry to create, this young boy of 6 has become very tied up in trying to work out what belongs to him and what is someone else's. Now he spends all his time preparing to set up a gang. 15. This story is from many years ago. A boy named Satpal and I used to take tuitions in the same place. Both of us worked very hard for our 10th class examinations. I passed somehow, but I got no news about Satpal. Once I ran into him after a long time. He said to me, "Rakesh, aren't you coming to sit for the exams?" "Which exams, my friend?" I asked him. "Abey, exams to clear the 10th class. What is saying? I thought to myself. It had been years since I'd cleared those exams. "Well, I'm on my way," he continued. "Come along if you're coming, I'm going. There's a place in this world for this person too, who contains his entire world inside him and carries his own listener in his heart." 16. Halting their caravans, people have encamped. They will live here for a while before they move on again. And yet, there are those places as well where the routine of sowing, then harvesting continues. This routine takes possession of people's minds. The band of its shadows rises and abates. 17. Do rules and conditions create a labyrinth which swallows all things, fixing them into a shape and a form of its own choosing? Nothing should be wasted. It puts even the last breath of every object into some use. This force is unnamed. It dissolves into the atmosphere. This too is part of a creation. We find it stubbed into every image that we behold. Its description is hard as stone, but its experience makes us molten like wax. 18. Keep seeking those signs that are for you alone. Halt in the shade of those shelters that are for you alone, so that your stories, your memories, all signs that are yours may glow once again. Recount all those moments with the freshness that have been yours alone. Lose your way in this city. Become a stranger in a place that you know. All around you, these signboards indicating possible routes are for you alone. And when you stray too far, pursuing the path that you are on, tell them every person here is in readiness to wander off alone.